Okay, we're rolling.
All right. We said 9, right?
10.
Here we are, episode 10, Iron Age Radio. We're back in the home of Iron Age in Winnipeg. We're here with one of our favorite guests here, Mikal Thrones. Hey, Mike.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, very good. In what I would think would be an absolute first for myself, at least, me and Mikal sat down and prepared notes for this show. We have things like we looked at numbers, we looked at stats, we looked at how people did at OSG, which it might not come as much of a surprise to you that normally it's a little more off the cuff than that when I do this kind of stuff. So I'm very happy to be sitting with one of the smartest men in Western Canadian strength sports here, and we are post OSG, post one of the biggest OSGs there's ever been, I would think. Not the most the most Canadian OSG. I think last year we had a little bit more for overall competitors.
You know, I should have looked at the
That's one thing we didn't
list
look
for
at.
last year.
But we had a lot. We had a lot both years. It just felt like last year, every time you're watching it, it's like every round or so there was like a new Canadian person coming out when it was like the numbers of 4 or whatever. But we had a really great turnout from a lot of our competitors from a huge range, from the teen division all the way to the men's open and almost everything in between.
Yeah, I think it was definitely the best showing for Canadians.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't the most highest number of competitors.
Yeah.
I can't remember having this many Canadians like in a finals.
So I would agree with that. Myself and GM were trying to watch the damn thing, and it kept just giving us an error message over and over again, no matter how we tried to watch it. I'm not sure why that was. So eventually we just sort of ran out of time. So I watched we watched all of the teen and adaptive one. We watched all of day 1, and GM watched all of day 2, and I missed the sandbag for the open guys, and then I've watched none of day 3. So I'm gonna really be leaning on my man Mikal Thrones here to fill in the blanks for me, which is about 30% of it. So we can start off at the very beginning though, which was the day. It's almost like, because day 1 is day 1, but this is almost like the prequel day, I would call it, like day 0 almost.
Yeah, it honestly caught me off guard. I didn't know that the teens were on their own day.
Yeah.
Teens/juniors.
Yeah.
Were on their own day. So like, yeah, I came into the gym one day and you're like setting up, and I was like, oh, what are you watching? OSG.
So what day is it? Well, we started off.
I should be at work right now.
We had some representation on that day from Manitoba. We had our own Bosco Penner show up and do a really fantastic job getting second place at a world stage like that. This was his first year competing in the teen division. And the teen division has no weight categories either. Yeah. So mind you, like, they're teens, they're not going to be 350-pound monsters or anything, but Bosco's a small guy. Like, yeah, he's very lean.
So definitely a bit outsized, and I also he wasn't at the. Oh no, he was because it was capped at 15. I was thinking it went to 16.
Yeah,
that was the next start of the next division. So
yeah, he's got a background in rugby. He's playing rugby now, and I know that he's kind of like splitting his time between rugby training, strongman training. So I imagine that now that OSG's done, he'll probably spend a little more time on the rugby stuff, which is a great idea, because that's not going to hurt your strongman training.
No.
It's becoming faster and more powerful and stronger in general, like you get from playing rugby. That's going to have a very strong carryover to your strongman stuff in the coming years.
Moving other human beings makes moving a nice inanimate but flimsy sandbag feel so much easier.
Absolutely, I would totally agree with that. So he had a great performance. He's somebody that we're really excited to see what he can do in the coming years in strongman. It'll be no time at all before he's in the open division with some of the other guys. So that'll be really exciting to watch.
Open age division.
Open age, yes. Hey, if he wants to go in the open weight category, well, God bless him, because that would
have to put on a lot of weight.
That would be fantastic to see. Also on that same day, we had Olivia Hoyam from Calgary. She came in first in the 19 to 20 division for women. She's been having a great season too. She came in first in the U23 competition that she did. Really excited to see what's coming up for her in these years too, as she starts to just develop strength, like the kind of strength that comes with just your early 20s, your mid 20s. It's a very impressive thing to see somebody who's already doing so well at such a young age.
Yeah, and as long as getting into it now, she's gonna keep the athleticism and the explosiveness versus you see a lot of power lifters moving into it, which we'll end up talking about.
We'll get to that, yeah.
At some point today, but if you haven't done anything explosive or anything moving, that is way harder to develop than building up the static strength.
Absolutely, and that's we talked about this the other day, where from here, Anna, she's putting a real focus on her Olympic lifting, which and which is great, because the strongman will come if you're good at Olympic lifting. We've seen that time and time again, that Olympic lifters who cross over into strongman do really well. And I would hazard a guess that if you were to go the other direction, might not be as good. It might not quite be as hot for some of the guys who do it. But it's really exciting to see these people who are like honing other athletic abilities and then bringing that into strongman. I really like seeing that. So what we're gonna do here is we'll kind of go.
We have one more teen competitor.
Oh, excuse me.
From Edmonton, Alexander Skiruka, who won his category in the junior lightweight men.
There you go.
I think. Oh,
we got the information here
wait,
in front of us.
I might not. No, sorry, the 16 to 18, not the juniors.
Okay,
16 to 18 teen category.
So the future is very bright for Western Canadian strongman in just these three shining faces. We have a lot to look forward to in the coming years for competitors coming out of this country. We'll kind of go over some of the competitors here. I know if we forget somebody, please forgive us. We actually sat here and tried to go through everything and kind of comb through all the results and tried to pull all the Canadian athletes and how they did and everything. So if we forget you, please forgive us. We're not doing it on purpose. But first, I'd like to get a little bit into the Manitoban athletes specifically, the other ones, the Manitoba power couple, that is Gord and Jocelyn Grimolfsson. Both of them qualified for this competition by winning their respective categories, their masters categories at nationals. Jocelyn winning the women's masters. There was no weight divisions at that time. Nope. And Gord winning the lightweight masters in a very competitive class that year. I think it's hard to say when you get to this kind of level of competition, like just speaking as somebody who just did sort of a new competition in terms of like the tier of difficulty with the Magnus. I haven't talked to Gord. I don't know how he feels about his placing. But I hope that he's like okay with how he did, because this is like a huge competition to step up to and do. Mm-hmm. And it's like I was watching his training going into this, and he improved all of his lifts. He was hitting new PRs and what seemed like pretty much everything, and competed at the biggest stage there is for a weight class athlete. So I hope he's proud of how he did.
It gets talked about a lot in because bodybuilding has such a clear distinction here. It's talked about a lot when you're like if you're not somebody who's just insanely gifted or jumping in after 20 plus years of experience, when you're working your way through like the amateur scene of bodybuilding, you become like this hunt for the pro card where you're consistently at the top of shows over and over again. Mm-hmm. And then you finally it comes that opportunity, you get that pro card, and you're just a small fish thrown into a bigger pond now. Sure. Yeah. And it's they talk a lot about how we can like really start to train on your mindset when you're like consistently at these amateur competitions and always placing at the top. And then when you start as a pro, like there is such a clear distinction. Like you're going to be right at the bottom rung of the ladder, right, and you got to build your way back up again.
Yep.
And some people, some of the competitors, they realize like, okay, I got to go away. I got to put on the size and do what I need to do to start being competitive here. And some people, they just can't stomach that, like losing repeatedly, kind of getting your face kicked in a bit.
Yeah.
So
I would say
it's definitely the same thing here at OSG.
Yeah, that's you related to bodybuilding, and we can relate it right back to strongman here too. With like, I would say that's Dan, where he was dominating the amateur scene and was waiting to get out of it. Was just waiting for that opportunity to have a chance to get his pro status. And now that he's been dumped into this next level of guys that are really, really challenging. But Dan, being the guy that he is not going to like stop or accept that it's like, well, I'm just not here. It's like he just gets better and improves, and he's beating me on a lot of gym lifts now and stuff. He's beating me in competition, like certain events. He's a guy where he's the prototype of what you want to do in that situation. And I think that Gord is of that same mindset.
Yeah, Gord has like such a healthy approach to competing, and like a very growth driven mindset too.
Yeah.
Like I don't think this is really going to shake him too much. Maybe be a bit of a blow, but like give him like a week to kind of process his loss, and then it's just gonna be like, okay, got to get to myself to that level.
I hope that's the case. We loved watching you compete, Gord. Now, if we were to look at the the real bright spot of the competition in terms of Manitoba competitors. Jocelyn Grimolfson, Manitoba's strongest woman. Just
outstanding performance.
absolutely, like just really like third place in the sandbag throw to get like a top 3 finish in any event at OSG is just like incredible. And we know here in Manitoba how strong and how good she is, even if Jocelyn doesn't always know. I think that's kind of the situation sometimes, is that other people know more than she does sometimes how strong she is. But she really put it on display here, and it was really, really fun to watch. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, and like a few standout performances. Like I don't remember exactly what Jocelyn's deadlift numbers were like, but going into the competition, but I'm pretty sure it was just in July at the WRPF meet where she pulled 400 pounds for the first time, or at least the first time in competition. And now she hit 405 for a double on an axle.
Yeah.
In competition. Like,
really incredible to see that kind of like progression in a short period of time, especially from a Masters competitor.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like normally the gains are a little slower when you kind of get north of that 40, or even, I mean, it doesn't have to be that high. It can be a little lower than that, and the gains start to slow down. But not with her right now, at least.
No.
You know?
And like also just to bring up another great performance from her, the 250 stone load at the end of a competition.
Yep.
And that was I don't remember how many stones she got at Manitoba's, but I know Anna was the only one who finished that run, and that run ended at 240.
Right. So again, more progression there, setting a new Manitoba record in the process too.
Yep, hit the same weight that Anna did at Westerns, but to a 2-inch taller platform.
To a higher platform, so that nudges it out. So super impressive. Like I really hope that first of all, I want to see her defend her title at Manitoba Strongest, but I really hope that because she, if I have this right, her and Gord both did not accept their pro status from SCC when they won nationals. They're just interested in being able to continue competing in that category, and Gord in that weight class, which I think is one of the more intelligent like decisions that you can make. Like I think that it's probably not the easiest decision to make, because it's like, you know, everyone wants to say that they've done that, right? They got their pro status, whatever, and shit. But I think it's a very smart move if you're like, I'm thinking about the long term and how much I want to compete and what I want to compete in, to make that call. Because it's like if you take that pro status now, you don't get to compete in that category anymore, and then you don't get to have that direct line to OSG anymore, which makes things a whole lot more complicated.
Yeah.
And like
I mean, even like Dan is going to be having that issue now. Like if he isn't able to get his invite deferred, because like and I guess you mentioned on the podcast last week, but like 'cause he was injured right before, and yeah, if he's not able to get his deferred, like he's just gonna have to requalify. And like, what is his avenue there? Like online qualifier, I guess.
Online qualifier, like, travel for a qualifier, you know, to one of the American ones. But it's like the winning that or podium at nationals is not easy. I don't mean to make it sound like that, but there's no easier route. There's nothing.
And, I mean, if you're someone like Jocelyn, like if you're getting sixth at OSG, like podium is
very
a lock.
reasonable to expect. Yeah,
you know?
And she I very much hope to see both of these competitors, and all three, including Bosco, getting back to nationals, podium at nationals, which we all know that they can do, and getting back to OSG again. Because it's just there's nothing more fun than watching people that you know on this big stage like this too. I love that.
Yeah, especially all three competitors who, like, well, Bosco being so new, of course he's going to be progressing rapidly, but like they're all still improving, and like I could definitely see like Gord like if he, I guess like he'd be qualifying for OSG again after next year's nationals, so he'd be going back in 2026, and give Gord 2 more years, and like the finals is a foregone conclusion. Then it'll be a top 5 chase, I would say.
I think so too. I think that's very reasonable to expect from a guy like him who's got the work ethic that he does, and he's working with a coach. He's with Devin. He's got somebody who's looking out for him and giving him that outside perspective on things. Because I think in the past, Gord's gone very hard, and we've seen like a string of sort of injuries from him that it's, you know, fingers crossed, knock on wood, all that shit. We haven't seen anything like that in the last little while with him. Mm-hmm. So hopefully just like programming smart, listening to coach, listening to yourself, your own, like what your body's telling you, whatever the fuck, is going to lead to more longer strings of healthy competition for these two, both of them.
So, no, I'm good. You want to broaden it out?
Yeah, let's go. We were going to go Western Canadian, and then we just thought, what the hell? Let's just go with all the Canadians. So in the Masters 50 plus from Thunder Bay, Carrie Poole taking second place, the highest that anybody did in Canada, except for Jackie O tying second place. Awesome, just like an awesome performance.
And to Claire Myler, who is an absolute monster.
Absolutely, yeah, and I've had the opportunity to meet Carrie a couple times. She's super nice. Like she's just like, it makes it all the better when somebody that you like. I like everybody on this list, but like it makes it all the better when somebody that you like does really well in a competition, because you can it's just that much easier to root for them. You know?
Yeah, she was here for Vita.
That's right.
Yeah, but you were gone. So.
Yeah. She mentioned that to me actually. So. Also in the Masters 50 plus, we had Jen Sager and Shar Hoyam. Neither one made the finals, but I mean, I don't want to make this a thing that we repeat every single time, but I mean, just being to OSG is like a really big deal. You know what I mean? Like when you look at even in the open division, some of the guys who didn't make the finals, on the Canadian scene in the open division, like these are like the top guys. So it really goes to show how back and forth this competition could be the whole time for everybody, with 50 points on the line for every single event.
Yeah.
In the women's 64, we had two of our real standouts in Canadian strong women. We had Holly McRae and Taylor Woods. They both. I didn't get their standings on what I wrote down here for some reason.
Here, let me pull it up.
Two that I didn't write down.
They finished. Taylor was 8th and Holly was 7th.
So probably not the standings that they wanted for that one. But I mean, if I were to paraphrase something that Spencer Remick said about the open division, was that he won in 2021, he tied in 2022 for first, and if he brought either one of those packages to 2024, he wouldn't have made the top 10. That's what he said. So we've seen that through maybe except for the women's open, just because the women are a little more spread out in all the different competitions they've been doing, but in almost every weight class or division or whatever you want to call it has been like extremely competitive, to the point where someone like Taylor Woods and Holly McRae, who are outstanding, incredible competitors, are outside of that top 5. It really says something.
Yeah, and Taylor, I'm sure she would have liked to have a better performance. I don't remember her exact placing last year, but I know she was, if not on the podium, she was in the hunt the entire competition. But she was competing so much.
Yeah,
she Strong Swimming Canada wasn't that long ago.
Right.
She did a powerlifting meet a week before that.
That's right. That's true.
She's so active, and this is the end of a long season. Yeah, so she could be. And I also feel like meeting her the couple times that I feel like she could have she could have like a torn ACL and you would never know. She would just like that to her, that would just like not even cross her mind as like a reason to pull out of a comp. It seems like she just has that like drive and that motivation. Kind of that bordering on when you meet somebody and you're like, you might get yourself hurt because you push too hard. Like she kind of gives me I don't know her super well, but she kind of strikes me as that kind of person.
Well, she's certainly like an athlete's athlete. Like, she's a pro.
She's so fun to watch.
Yeah, she's incredibly fun to watch. She's a pro hockey player. So she has like that athletic background, and when I say athletics, I don't even necessarily mean like the physical athletics. I mean like the mental. Like she is a strong, mentally competitive athlete, and we've seen that where I've said this before, but like when she starts a deadlift, and if it freezes below her knee, that does not mean the pull is over, and it doesn't mean that she's not going to get it, because she has pulled some amazing weights from like what seems to be like you would need like an electron microscope to see it moving still, and she somehow manages to pull off the lift. We've talked before about her axle clean and press, where she got like on one knee on the ground and got back up and then tried it. It was absolutely incredible, the stuff that she could do. She
did a sandbag attempt at the record breakers this year at Nationals, where she did a full circle trying to shimmy the sandbag up her body. Yeah. The entire attempt, I went back in time, it was 40 seconds.
40 seconds. So not an ounce of quit in her. So really excited to see for both those women. And Holly McRae looked to be in absolutely incredible shape. Like she was as jacked as I've ever seen some of these women that come into these things. So really excited to see what they pull off next year. This is not in a specific order. We're kind of all over the place here. But the women's 40 plus, we had Lori McDougall-Sugraj. Didn't make the finals. Still had a great showing though. In the 73, we had Laura DeBert-Romilly.
That was 40 plus lightweight.
40 plus lightweight, excuse me.
Yeah.
Laura DeBert-Romilly, she did make the finals.
Yep.
And I didn't write down her placing.
I believe she finished 3rd. Did she? No, 4th.
4th place, so just off the podium. Still, again with her, like she's still, she's 23, I think. I think I saw them say that.
I don't remember her exact age, but she did compete at IPF Junior Worlds.
Yeah. So I think that she's 23. So sky's the limit for somebody like that, where she's
Yeah.
already so strong and already so athletic, and like you said, she's done powerlifting worlds, she's done strongman worlds. Like, talk about a multifaceted strength athlete and being really, really good at both of them. Like, that's incredible.
And like really like doesn't seem to have like a. She has to bring up her overall strength, but being that young, like that makes sense. But
Sure.
like she's very good statically. She's also very good at moving. Like
Yeah.
there's not really a weakness. It's
Yeah.
just her has to bring up a little bit the level of everything, especially with the category she's competing in.
Sure.
Because like having to go up against Nancy Johnson and Erin Murray.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So that's gonna be just a matter of time.
Actually, that's a notable performance here. Like I want to bring up like the point gap between Erin Murray, Nancy Johnson, and then just everybody else. Erin won with 64.5 points, which means she only dropped 5.5 points across all of OSG.
That's wild.
And not in like that happened with like Mark Felix only dropped like 4.5 or something.
Yeah.
But like, it's the Masters 50 plus. It's a smaller category.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the women's U73 is like one of the biggest categories. Like if you're a female interested in strength sports and you want to keep decent body composition,
right,
most of the time you're probably going to land in the U73s of if you're of average height. So it's a big category. She only dropped 5.5 points. Nancy Johnson finished with 61. So she only dropped 9 points across the entire competition. And then third place was 42.5.
Right. So yeah, like
almost a 20-point gap.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna talk about it a little bit later. But like Erin Murray goes back and forth between like the open weight and these 73s
and the U82.
Yeah.
U82 world champion from last year.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. She dominates these weight classes, and once she kind of whatever it might be that's missing from her for that open weight, I guess height would be part of it, but she she's so dominant in these lighter classes that I really wanted to see her turn a corner in those open weights and start easier said than done, but I'm hoping that can happen for her.
Maybe we'll stay at the Arnold.
That's right, and she's so fun to watch. She has like the sort of like the pro wrestling element to it with the face paint. She changed her face paint every day, which I thought that was really cool. She has like the colored braids. And she has a personality obviously too. Like we watched with the Hercules, or excuse me, not the Hercules hold, the wrecking ball hold, and she's like talking to the person next to her, like, okay, can I put it down now? This is good. I already won. Blah blah blah. Like just putting a little show on for it, and I love that stuff. So I can always appreciate that. She's one of my favorites going right now on that like that next level tier, pro tier, and it was really fun to see her just go back to her roots of the 73 and just fucking dominate it.
Yeah, like I really thought like her and Nancy have never really had a head to head. Like they were against each other in 2022 when Erin won the U73s, but then Nancy she broke her tibia and fibula on the car yoke, and horrific injury, like kind of stuff that you get nightmares about when you're thinking about a yoke. And like Nancy was the incoming world champion, so then Erin won, but like didn't actually necessarily beat her because Nancy had an injury that couldn't do anything about.
Right.
Then Erin goes up to the U82s. Nancy wins the U73s that year, but they didn't go head to head. Right. So now it was nice to.
It was great build up.
Like, and Nancy is also so jacked. Like she doesn't make sense to me.
No, she's somebody that it's easy when we talk so much about this category to be like Erin Murray, she's awesome, but that Nancy is fucking. I
would be intimidated to compete against Nancy.
Absolutely. Like
I'm supposed to beat her?
Yeah, she is a monster. Like she just looks the part through and through. She's exactly what you'd want to be, where it's like she fills every ounce of that 73 kilograms with fucking muscle. Like it's just like it's awesome to see. Okay, so we had in the U82 we had Anne Russell. And also the U82 we had Jose de la Chevrotier taking 6th place. Looking in really good form for her. It was really nice to see her do as well as she did there. She is also looking all kinds of jacked when you see her out there too. Like she looks awesome, and
she looked way bigger in person, or it might just be that category, like all the ladies in the U82 at OSG are so jacked that bigger, she kind of like she looks normal.
Yeah.
but she is huge.
When I stand next to her, I'm like kind of intimidated. Like we say it all the time, but she has traps that really put almost any man I know to shame. Like there's just
Anna calls her the traps lady.
The traps lady. That's what kind of sweeter compliment could you ask for than that? Like I always say that like when I see a woman with like really developed traps, I feel like compelled. Like I'm like I have to like congratulate them because it's like hard to do that. You know what I mean? Like as a woman to have really defined big traps, like it's not like an easy thing that comes to a lot of them.
Tyler did that at the movies. He goes up to the girl selling popcorn and goes, "Your traps are huge." And she did not care. She's like, "Okay."
She was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, just your traps are really big." And I thought that I was kind of safe because I was like, I was standing next to Jeanne and was like buying her popcorn and stuff. So it's like, there's nothing sexual about this. There's nothing like it's just me complimenting somebody who clearly works hard. And maybe she didn't work hard. Maybe she was just kind of naturally jacked because she didn't seem to give a shit at all.
She's born with it, maybe.
Yeah. She was, but she was really jacked.
Recruiter.
What's that?
Recruiter into strongman.
Okay, so I've had this idea that I've never put into play, but I swear I'm going to, and I'll put it on here so that I have to. But I want to have like a 2-sided business card where one has like all my information on it and strong Manitoba and all that stuff, and then the other side is like you look like you should do strongman, and then I'll just give them that, and then that way it's just like the message has been given and they know that that's what it is, and then they have the information there.
That is a good idea.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm gonna do that. Put that on the to-do list.
You mean my to-do list?
The to-do list. So congrats to Jose on a great performance. Now in the women's open, we had Sarah Jean Levesque. Didn't make it to the finals. Still a great showing. Tough stuff. That women's open was a challenging category. But if we're going to talk about the women's open, holy smokes, Jackie Oshevsky taking second place to Rebecca Roberts, and not like a giant gap. Like not like a 10-point difference or anything crazy like say like we saw with some of the other categories, but like really like I think it was like a 5-point difference, something like that, or maybe a little more than that.
And
but.
she had to claw her way back because she was going into the finals in 6th.
Yes,
which I mean isn't the worst place to be.
No, but
with OSG, you know, and especially, you know, you can only beat who shows up, and like I think a lot of people like me as a viewer, I was a bit disappointed not to see some of the regulars from OSG not there. You know, Inez wasn't there, Gabby Dixon, like those athletes who have, you know, been invited to the Rogue this year, being invited to the Arnolds, but you know they probably weren't there for a reason. Like if you know beat up at the end of a long season, maybe if they were there, they wouldn't have been able to perform up to their own standards. So you know you can't say that that Jackie wouldn't have won, but like Rebecca Roberts kind of being the only one at that level consistently, you would have expected her to kind of just like run away with the whole thing.
Yeah, sure.
So and yeah, there was a 5.5 point gap.
Yeah. So that's definitely, I would say that following this weekend, you know, the Arnold invites were already out before OSG and stuff. So there's not really any way you can like try to be like, oh, this should lead to that, whatever. Maybe next year, but you certainly couldn't say that Jackie's out of the conversation for that kind of stuff now.
No,
with this kind of performance. But to what you were saying though about it being kind of it's like having like a lack of those next stars. I think that they might be able to do more to like if they're going to call this World's Strongest Woman, which they if you search for the results and stuff, that's what it says, World's Strongest Woman. It doesn't say OSG Open, whatever. Maybe it's worth presenting this as like a bigger deal than like almost like as its own thing that's happening at OSG. Like if it's going to be called World's Strongest Woman, instead of it's like we kind of understand that the 105 is the world's strongest 105, but they don't really call it that. They call it OSG 105 division, whatever, right? So I think that they could stand to maybe have it be more like grandiose, that it's like you're winning the world's strongest woman if you do this competition. That might attract more people, and then if that's the case, they would have to have prize money and stuff to reflect that.
Yeah, I mean they do call for like the 105s. They do call it World's Strongest Man under 105.
Really?
Yeah, they do.
Well, shows what I know then. But it's
I do agree. Like I mean, I don't know exactly how you would do it because you know the scale of the competition. I think just kind of kills that idea before.
Yeah,
before it
makes it very
like,
challenging. Yeah.
So I don't know exactly how, but yeah, it does feel when it's just like you know, herding cattle through a set of events, like it can make it hard to make the event feel special for the individuals winning that title.
Maybe they do what they do.
I shouldn't say for the individuals. I'm sure it feels very special
of course
for the individuals.
Of course it is, yeah.
Special to watch the individuals win the title.
Maybe the answer would be like what they do with like SWIC and Nationals, where SWIC is like the day before. Maybe they do World's Strongest Woman following the teen juniors and adaptive as like a way to wrap up that first day, but it's on its own. It's its own big competition. There's no like unloading their weights and then loading up heavier weights afterwards to get like the men's stuff on there. Like maybe something like that could work. I don't know, but it does create there is a little bit of a situation to be solved there. If they want to call it World's Strongest Women, they need to get the strongest women in the world there as well too. You know, whatever. That's a problem for next year, not for this year, not for this time.
Anyway, but yeah, just saying, that was just to say, like, going into it, you would have expected Rebecca to run away with it, but
Yeah, but Jackie kept right up with her.
Yeah, she did.
Absolutely. So, congrats to Jackie Oshevsky, second place though at World's Strongest Woman. I would love to know what like the there was an official World's Strongest Woman in like the early to late aughts in in the world, but I don't know when exactly that stopped, and I don't know when exactly they started calling OSG World's Strongest Woman.
I don't know. That'd probably be easy to find.
So I would be curious to know exactly how that stands up and like what women have gotten from Canada at World's Strongest Woman. I would have to believe that second would be very, very high up there. She's kind of like the Tom McGee of strong women. Tom McGee got second place very early on at World's Strongest Man. And then until Mitch Hooper, he was the highest person who placed it from Canada. Yeah.
All right, I thought Strongman Archive might say, because I know that they have like World's Strongest Woman from like 2002, because I found Jose on there.
2, 3, and 4.
Yeah. I thought that they might just like, we'll just continue calling all of them World's Strongest Woman, but there, when you click on the OSG version and you go to all World's Strongest Woman competitions, it only goes back to 2017. So I imagine that's when OSG started doing it.
Okay, well, there you go. So there might be a
half
gap
of what
in there.
you're wondering.
Yeah, so there might be a gap in there, but like I said, I'd be curious to know. That I'd be willing to put money on her probably being the highest ranked or like the highest finishing Canadian at a World's Strongest Woman competition.
I mean, the only other Canadian. Oh no, I guess the only Manitoban. Jose, I think, is the only other Canadian that I can think of off the top of my head.
That's gone
to World's Strongest Woman.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably like some Quebec woman that I'm not familiar with who's gone,
Probably.
but
Jose, I think her highest placing was 8th.
8th, I think. Yeah. So that's something for me to look into.
All right, weight category men.
So we have in the men's Masters 40 plus one of our favorite people in the whole wide world, Dave Nollet. Unfortunately, he took an injury earlier on in the competition, didn't finish, was having a good showing. He had a good showing in the log. He's a very strong log presser, so we didn't expect anything less from that. And also as an added benefit, he was just being very Dave Nollet during the competition. Like the commentators were constantly talking about him because he's always doing things and stealing the show.
Bouncing the whole time.
Yeah, it was very fun, and like just the way that he sort of like his stance that he takes before he competes and stuff. He has a very like he's like a predator waiting to jump on its prey. Like he's just like he has this aura to him that he's ready to fucking rock when it's time to go, and it's fun to watch. And it was nice to see people who don't know Dave the way that we do experience him for the first time. It's always kind of fun to see that.
I don't think he's ever dulled his personality in any given
No, I wouldn't say so. No.
Yeah.
And so we do wish that he would have gotten a little better. I don't know what the injury was. He didn't finish, so I'm assuming that's what it was. So all the best to him, and I hope that we see him there again next year because it was fun to watch.
He would have only had to finish like top 10, top 12 in the sandbag to get into the finals. Like he was right on the border there.
Yeah, he was doing good, and so we wish for him the best. In the lightweight masters, we had Adam Arsenal and Denny Lebrec. Denny Lebrec did make it to the finals. He made it to the finals and finished the competition in 10th place. So big ups to him. He's a guy who's been doing this for a real long time. He used to run CASA back in the day, and he's him and Hannah Brock run Valkyrie, the coaching and / the equipment and everything else that they've done. So shout out to him because he's a very good representative for the sport. In the Masters 50 plus, we had Denny Bertrand in 9th place, making it to the finals as well. In the U80, we had Patrick Laforest and Sam Lachance. They didn't make the finals, I don't believe, right?
No, Sam finished 12th, so he just barely didn't make it.
Yeah. But Sam's a big log presser. He did really well in the log press. We've seen him do well in log press, like record breakers and nationals and stuff here, so we knew that was going to be a good one for him. In the U90, we had Nick Kristofi, who also didn't make the finals. In the 105, we had Darcy Flasca, Philip Dumont.
Actually, just because you mentioned it, I decided to see he actually tied for the win on the log.
There you go.
So
So,
Sam, Sam is a great log presser, and he's tied with Dylan Thompson, who won.
There you go. So
the entire comp.
that's something that he's got on lock. Then is that log press. 105, we had Darcy Flasca, Philip Dumont Bouchard, and BJ Goss. None of them making the finals. I liked watching Darcy's progression into this, though, because he always competes in the open. Like, he's done Westerns. He's done, I'm trying to think, maybe it was Farm Strong. He did another open weight Pro-Am. And I like the idea of him kind of like taking that experience of the really heavy weights that he's hit, like competing with the big heavy guys, and then doing he's at a much healthier body weight now, cut down a little bit, and is trying the 105 thing. I think that he posted that he realized he had done things wrong with his water cut or something. Whether or not that would have made all the difference, who knows? But that's something that he can consider for next time at least, and maybe have a little bit of a better crack at making the top 10. If anybody needs help with water cuts, my man Thrones here is really, really good with them, so consider that.
Love water cutting.
What's that?
Love water cutting.
Yes,
I hate doing it.
You need a coach who loves water cutting. That's the thing. It's that not that he knows it. Not
It's
that he's
so neat.
Yes, not that he's experienced with it or knows it. It's that he fucking loves it. That's important. Okay, so now to the one that the highest level of competition, I would say, at this whole thing. And there was lots of high level competition. I don't mean to understate any other weight classes or anything, but that's just really the men's open was really, really incredible. 50 competitors, 15 to 20 who could be in the finals. You know what I mean? Like, and then inside of those 10,
I mean, you got guys like Andrew Burton didn't make the finals,
right? Yeah,
like, mind you, he's coming off Magnus.
I have to attribute it to that.
2 weeks.
I just have to attribute it to that because he just didn't perform the way that you would have expected, especially after having just seen him do so well at the Magnus. So I have to believe that maybe he tried to cram a little too much into, not to mention just like the Magnus, but like the travel that comes with it and all that stuff too, right? So,
but let's just say, like, it was just super competitive because Andrew Burton is not a guy you would ever guess to, like, on his worst day
to be outside the top 10.
Yeah,
no, absolutely not. So, yeah, that many guys could have been the top 10, and then once you get into that top 10, you're like, okay, any of these guys could be on the podium. Like, it was just an absolutely insane caliber of athlete on this one.
Yeah, because like guys you'd have as like a lock for the podium. Josh Spurgeon, I thought, like,
for sure.
Yep. He was my pick to win the whole thing.
Yep.
I thought he had the highest chance, which that one is like, picking a podium's tough. Picking somebody to win is, he just had a slightly better chance in my mind than anybody else. But like, he finished 7th, I think.
He got 6th. Was it 6th?
Josh?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
But to what you were saying there, where it's like it's like, okay, this is who I think would win, and if somebody else came to you and said,
he got
well,
9th.
9th.
And then like Spencer Remick, a former champion.
Ooh, sorry, Josh.
Spencer Remick, a former champion.
You're 6th in my heart. Remick being a good example of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I was just gonna reiterate your previous point where it was like, you can't predict the podium at this competition anymore.
If you came to me and you were like, I think that Josh is going to win, and here's why. I'd be like, that's very reasonable. And I'd be like, I think that Spencer Remick's going to win, and this is why. And you'd be like, that seems reasonable too. And there wouldn't be like, no, there's no way that's going to happen. Like, just anybody could have gotten them. Like, Jeffers could have won. Like, there's not like, I mean,
even Jeffers,
even fucking Jeffers could have. No, I don't mean like that way, but I mean like there were great events for him, and he showed that it was with a great performance. But anyway, so we get to the open division. Nathan Edwards did not make the finals. Larson. Great showing on the log.
Yeah, he blew me away on the log.
Yeah, snuck out that buzzer beater to hit 3 reps at 380. That's the log in Western Canada is getting really insane, and you boys got to catch up a little bit. But that was really awesome to see. The yoke didn't go the way that he would have wanted it to, just because he's really good at yoke, and that's why I say that.
He's had 1,000 pounds on his back before, hasn't he?
So it was
the car's different.
The car balanced differently, but also someone told me that he said that he picked. It might have been in the group chat, and I just missed it, but he set the bar too low and had to do too much of a squat to get it up, and then had to change his foot width, and it made it just wobbly, and it just wasn't working. So that sucks, especially because that's a good event for him, where he could and the deadlift is not really his friend, at least not right now. So if he would have gotten just a little more points on that, I don't know that the finals would have been there for him. I don't think you could have a weak event and get into the finals, but I think he could have climbed up that leaderboard a little bit higher and been somewhere where he might have been a little bit happier with.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say, he looked very happy in every single shot that he was in.
He looked fat as fuck in every single shot that he was in too. He was huge. He's huge. And,
He's expecting.
I'm sure he's expecting. By the way, congratulations to Lars on that too. But Lars and his partner, I don't mean in a bad way. I just mean he looked fucking huge. Like I just saw him and I was like, oh my god, he's fucking gigantic, and he's strong as shit. So whatever.
It's clearly it's working for his log.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he told me that he was going to go on a diet after Westerns, and I thought he meant like to lose weight. I didn't think he meant to get fatter, but I guess that's the kind of diet that he was talking about. So. But he achieved his goal, so good for him.
Right.
Fred Reaume and Gabe Reaume. I don't think either of them having the showing that they would have liked, and I might have kind of put Fred around where he got, maybe a little higher, but like I know he's not great with, or the yoke is not necessarily his friend, and moving stuff like sandbag stuff isn't really his friend right now. But Gabe was like crushing that shit at CSM, and
both of them, it was really the log that
the log really suited them both, but even that I would have really thought that a 380 would be there for both of them,
or the lighter log,
or the lighter log, yeah, something. It just didn't come together, and I'm just not sure. I'd be curious to get to speak to them a little bit about that, because maybe they compete so much in Quebec. And they don't leave all that much. So I'd be curious to know, maybe travel fucked with them a little bit, or maybe just new stage, new people, new lights kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Long season of a lot of competition.
Long season, yeah, that's true too.
Fred did look huge, though. He looked like one of the most intimidating people.
Yeah.
In a room full of intimidating people, like hundreds of people were walking, like the average person walking down the street.
Yeah.
But
then those people would see this guy and say something. I think there was a couple times where they commented on like, "Geez, his arms and his shoulders," and just like because the light would just hit him and he would look just fucking awesome. It was
his
really,
arms
really,
like a torso.
Yeah, they're both really big. Gabe's a little like leaner right now than Fred, but that's a very relative term when you see these guys, because they're fucking.
Do you know what they weigh?
Like a million.
What's that?
Like a million?
A million, yeah. I think they're in that 320, 330. I think, because they're a little shorter than me. But they're not short by any means. They're just like, I think they're like 6 feet, 6'1", whatever.
I still would have guessed that Gabe that
Fred
would
probably
be like 360.
Sorry, I probably have Gabe at probably around 320, 330. I would say Fred's probably closer to the 350, 60 mark. Okay, so after that we had Yannick Boucher, who had like if you could have picked two events for him, that deadlift and that yoke, especially the yoke, he was all over that shit. That was really, really awesome to watch. There was a period where the top three guys on the yoke were all Canadian for a little bit, where it was Yannick, Gabe, and then Jeffers. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
Please.
And Yannick, like he won the yoke, 50 points there, which is awesome.
Unreal, yeah.
And then the deadlift, he got 35 points on.
Yeah.
Between the other two events, he got 18 points. So he doubled his points from both of the other events just on the deadlift, and then added 50 points. Like, it was just those two events, the yoke and the deadlift, were like all of his points, and like he still finished in the low 20s.
Yeah.
Like top half of the field at OSG. Like
a rep on the log would have gone a long way for him.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the story for a lot of guys. That just like if they would have gotten something on the log, it would have made a big difference for a lot of guys. But his yoke is just unbelievable. And I said it was really, or I think we were talking about it. It's a really good thing that Gabe and Yannick went in the same heat, because that was the only way that you could see that Yannick got Gabe by a little bit on it. If they would have been in different heats, you would have been like, come on, there's no way you could know who actually got that. Like that's just the guy's finger or whatever. But
you know what would solve that issue? A giant red button.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Maybe maybe they have to run and press it. The timer doesn't stop until so that's thinking.
Like, not each person gets a button. There's just one big button for everybody.
Gets to it first, and then everyone else is fucked.
Everyone else zeros.
But that was watching Gabe and Yannick, but that did also make me wish. I do wish that it would have been like 65 or 75 feet the run. Because a lot of guys, like say Yannick was a good example of it, he was just starting to really hit a stride at that halfway point. He was accelerating, and Gabe came really hot off the line, and Yannick was catching up to him, and he ended up beating him, so whatever. But I think that if we would have seen a little more distance, we would have seen. I think that Yannick would have won more. I think that he was just starting to pick up speed, but it was really, really fun to watch, and so shout out to him for having a really great performance, and as a little side note, like beating this year's CSM. as a guy who wasn't wasn't in that top half. I don't think. Oh God, I'm sorry if he was, but to have that kind of win under your belt, a little personal victory like that's got to go a long way. And the guy who placed the highest out of the men's open from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, owner of the
Al Capone tunnels.
Yeah, the Al Capone tunnels and museum in Moose Jaw there. James Jeffers. So huge, like just. I know that he wanted the podium. He's probably feeling a little bit of that, like, shit, I didn't get what I wanted, but I truly hope that he can understand, like, how insanely difficult what he did was, because that was, I think that he's a guy, too, where, so say we watch, did you watch Lucas's and Alex, like, breakdown of the competition? The preview video? Okay, so they mentioned Jeffers a lot in that, but I think that outside of, say, those guys who are really, they know a lot more about Canadian strongman than a lot of guys do, I think. I don't know that Jeffers was a guy that people would have put in that top 5 because they're not familiar with him as much as Remick and Bryce and all these guys that are just like they see them more and they're more familiar with them and stuff. So I really, really hope that this is something now where Jeffers is a little bit more on the map for some of these guys. And if we're looking at last year, 4th place did get an invite to Worlds. So you never know.
And, a couple things on like Jeffers, like going into the final in 8th and moving up 4 places, which again, like we said with Jackie, she did the same thing. She moved up 4 places. She just had the benefit of starting in 6th. But like that's not easy for one. Like the gap that can be created, especially with the going from heats to the finals, and they just take out the scores, so you really know what the gap's going to be. That makes it tough to just mentally come back from. And he just had a phenomenal day 3, like second on the throwing.
Sandbag throwing was awesome.
And I might be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure that like he just happened to be in the heats with the people who placed first in both of those events.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure on the throwing.
That's interesting.
But yeah, for sure on the wrecking ball hold, he got second, but Josh Pataka, who won the wrecking ball hold, was in the same heat as he was.
Crazy.
And they were in the first heat to go. So you're like, oh, like Jeffers, like, he has monster grip, and like, oh, he comes second in his own heat.
Right.
And now the guys who are in a higher placing, they're going to go after him, and you're like, oh, how many people are going to jump ahead of him?
Yeah,
he just like held on to that second place spot the whole time.
That's awesome.
Which is both good to see, but also like, you don't have that marker to push you. Who knows?
He could, exactly. If you didn't know the time he had to beat, you never know what he could have gotten. And the stone run too, where it really says something. We keep saying this over and over again, but it really says something to the caliber of this competition. Where Jeffers is second best stone loader in Canada after Max, I would say, and him having a good run on those stones, like he pretty much everywhere he goes, he's in that top 1 or 2 on stones or whatever. But this one, he was like I think 4th or 5th.
He was 4th. He was 4th going into the stones,
right?
And
he got 4th on the stones.
Right. And third. Everybody who was already ahead of him were the only ones who beat him, which sucks for you're trying to work your way back into there. But like it kind of really killed the suspense watching it.
Right.
I mean, killed the suspense for somebody who wants Jeffers on the podium. Like I was cheering for him to get on there, and you're just like, oh, he got 4th, and it shows like the top 3, and it's like all the 3 people who are just ahead of him, and you're like, well, no, there's no shake up here.
Yeah. So it's nice. It was cool to see him hang so well on that level with those guys, but it's also pretty wild to see, damn, like even if you get better than Jeffers, there's there's still that next tier of guys on this level that you have to get to. It's just like there's always like a bigger fish, right? It's pretty wild to see.
Bryce Johnson had a insane stone run. I don't even know if he won the stones. Just like the most impressive stone run. I think he did win the stones, and he won. He won by a lot, like a 10-second gap between him and second place.
That's
and like
unreal.
he was not.
That's like a whole other stone. That's like a time for another stone in there.
Watching him, I'm pretty sure he one motioned all but the last stone, and like he wasn't transitioning between stones fast. Like he just had this confidence about loading them, and he was just like, well, if I, just as long as I load them fast, like I'll win. He knew he wouldn't struggle, and other people would.
He's a monster, and he's a guy where once he gets once he polishes it up a little bit, like he's already very good. Don't get me wrong, but just a little more experience and time. He used to be like an NFL player, and he's a giant. Like he's one of the more physically gifted guys in the sport right now.
I think he was the tallest person there.
Well, I wouldn't doubt that. He's like 6'8" or something.
Yeah.
He's a monster. So once he can kind of like start to hone in a little bit on like the skill aspect of this a little bit, he's already obviously very good. I don't mean that, but like just more time, he's going to be a world level competitor very, very soon, and hopefully for a while. What's our time at right now, Jan?
We have 10 minutes.
Okay, well, let's get into a little bit of what we also want to discuss here too. So we'll wrap it up by saying congratulations to all the Canadians, all the competitors, all the organizers, all the volunteers. Martin, who went down and volunteered the entire weekend there. He was doing the check-in table, and then you'd see him on the floor, loading, unloading, doing all that stuff. So shout out to Martin, Manitoba's best volunteer, bar none.
That was the highlight of my weekend, was just
catching Martin in the back shots.
Yeah, like where's Waldo?
I love that too. I love seeing Martin in the background of things, hanging out with Evan's Nana.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just chilling.
That also made my weekend. It's
Yeah.
just like thinking about how nice they both are.
Yep, shout out to Evan's Nana for being a very, very nice guy.
Just like rapid fire some impressive performances.
Absolutely.
That I thought from OSG. A couple like just for like overall like dominations. Obviously, we already talked about Aaron Murray. Claire Myler competing both in the women's 50 plus and the U82.
Yeah, she's awesome. That's so sick.
Like last year, she did the
two
50 plus and the 40 plus, and finished with a gold and a bronze.
She said that just wasn't hard enough.
Yeah,
I have to do something more challenging.
I think besides the women's open, which she was also technically qualified for because she had the second highest total from the online qualifier across all categories. Only one open online qualifier beat her. So like she could have competed in the women's open, and I think she would have been probably top 5.
Very competitive. Yeah, for sure.
She had a couple bad events, like the throwing. She's very strong but inconsistent. The wrecking ball hold seemed to be a difficult event for her. But like aside from that, it was just like pure domination from like start to finish. And then doing it again in the U82 where she was in first place going into the finals.
Yeah.
in the U82. Like that's the second most competitive women's division in my opinion. Like at OSG. On the men's side, Filip Zajíček.
Yeah, the young guy.
Yeah, a young guy from the Czech Republic. He's 19 years old. He could have competed in the junior division, but he's like, no, I'm going for the world's strongest man U90, the biggest title, and just like didn't have a bad event.
Yeah, future monster for sure. Like he's a guy who's gonna, like you said, he's 19. He's in the U80 right now, or U90 right now, excuse me.
Yeah,
and so he's a guy
apparently doesn't really do a water cut.
No, yeah. So and he's just a dude who will just age and grow into the 105 probably. And then if he takes the route that say like a Nicholas Camby or whatever did, he'll bulk into the open, and like I would love to see the progression of this guy of as the years go by.
Yeah, he's already hitting a 336 log.
Yeah, for a double.
That was 330 for a double.
Oh, okay,
336 for a single like a month before.
Yeah,
so he's like progressing rapidly.
Yeah,
like he's gonna be, pressing in the high 300s. When he's like 20 years old,
yeah,
as a U90,
unreal.
Yeah, he's a monster. In the men's 40, the men's Masters 40 plus, one of the most dominant performances. Only dropped 8.5 points across the entire competition, and one of those points was actually in the stones because he knowingly took it easy, knowing just he had to finish the stone run to guarantee himself first place. Actually, I'm pretty sure he had already won, but so he took this one very casually. But Matt Webb,
right? Yep.
Monstrous performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I did want to touch on John Hack's performance a little bit, because I think I figured he would struggle on the yoke and the sandbag. I thought he would do better on the log. He only got 1 rep with the heavy log. I knew that he struggled with his lockout. But I figured it was light enough for him that he could, he just doesn't have the mobility. You can see it's like kind of that like he has to fight against his body to get into that locked out position.
It was a similar problem to what Max was having when he was first coming back from his injury, where it was always kind of getting in front of him because he just couldn't get himself into that extended position enough.
Exactly, but like with Max at what was it, Easterns? I think he got like 7 reps on a 320 or 330 log. every rep looked like an RPE 10 because he was just fighting against his own body to get into that lockout position. That's kind of what I figured John would do. But he, after the first one, he just couldn't get that second rep. Like, it was just like off the right line. Got him in front of him over and over again. So I did think he would do better on that. But he was still first going into the finals events. I didn't see his throwing because apparently the OSG video player, it only lets you go back 4 hours.
That's right. Yes.
So I missed a fair bit of the throwing because I was at my nephew's second birthday party.
Happy birthday, baby Nate.
Happy birthday, Nathan.
And when I got back, tried to rewind because I didn't see the women's, or no, sorry, I didn't see the open women's up until the open men's bag throw. But it wouldn't let me rewind that far. So not sure what happened on the bag throw. I know that it's a super technical event. Things can go wrong.
Skill based, yeah.
And then the wrecking ball hold, I thought John would do better in because he's held on to a 931 deadlift, something like that. Like, his grip is probably the strongest, but depending on the category, it seemed for some of them the wrecking ball hold was super heavy.
Yeah.
And some of them it was way undershot.
Yeah.
I don't think they were changing the weight enough between categories.
Yeah, that could be.
So like Dan Benson held on to it for over 3 minutes.
That's disgusting. That's just a bad way to spend 3 minutes. That's fucking horrible. Oh, man.
That's bad time management.
That sucks for him. But I mean, good for him for doing it. But
that's mad.
That's insane.
So, but John only lasted I think like 45 seconds.
Yeah.
So like I said, I think he probably has the strongest grip. Like if it was to be like
it's not a grip event though.
Yeah,
it's semi grip event. You can't have a weak grip to win it, but you can have a really good grip and not necessarily win it.
Yeah,
we saw that with Tristan at the Giants Live.
Absolutely, yeah. And then the stone load, I think he did fine on the stone load, but at that point he dropped so many points in the finals events.
Right.
There wasn't really any shot of him coming back for it for the podium. So, but one thing that I wanted to say is like. Even though I'm sure a lot of people probably expected him to do better, it's all things that I feel like are easy to fix for next year with him.
Yeah. Just more practice with the sandbag.
More practice with sandbag. More developing better overhead mobility.
The strength is there. He just has to loosen up a little bit.
Yeah. And he has the grip strength, so just building a grip, some more endurance, which shouldn't be hard at all. Like I even though he didn't do I think as well as a lot of people predicted this year, I still think if we see him on top of the podium at U90 next year, not all that surprising.
No, I would agree with that, and I love it. I really hope that we see him and others from powerlifting come over and try their hand at it. I love seeing that shit, like all the way back to like Andy Bolton doing it and stuff. Like I love seeing like a powerlifter come in and jump in, especially one who's just like a fucking like ridiculously strong athlete like John Hack, where it's like he can do it in a way that a lot of guys maybe wouldn't be able to. But I would love to see some of these guys who are just tearing up the powerlifting stuff come and just try the strongman stuff out, especially because they can do it at like at OSG where they can show it off a little bit and have a challenge and have it be not I remember you'd see say Larry Wheels tried or whatever, and it was like a smaller, more like regional show or whatever. But some of these guys, if they want to do it on a bigger stage and add to their their strength athlete sort of aura or whatever, I think that's a cool way to do it.
Nicholas Dupree's did that. He's been posting a strongman comp in China. This is pretty off topic now, but he's been posting events from strongman comp in China. There've been some pretty interesting events. They did like a moss wrestling setup, but they had to hold on to a steering wheel.
Oh, that's cool. That's interesting. All right, so one thing I want to get into a little bit today too was as we wrap up the OSG stuff is they released the invites for the Arnold's Expo Strongman and Strongwoman competition.
Arnold's Invitational.
And I think that's an important word. That is an important word. The Rogue Invitational. Arnold's Invitational. These are words that are put there on purpose. Because there's been a lot, and I also want to preface this. This is not directed at anybody. There's been a million people that commented this stuff and posted this stuff. This is just like a topic of conversation, right? There's nobody that we're like, this person said this, so now we're pissed off about it or anything like that. I think it's actually a valid topic of conversation, which has been what qualifies, which is not the right term, but what gets these athletes into these positions of competition. because we've wondered that all the way back to say World's Strongest Man, where it's, OSG gets top 3 a shot at Giants Live, but then all of a sudden top 5 are getting invited to Worlds, and these things are not always very clear. So I'll preface this by saying that I think that it would be helpful. I think these people are generally right, that it would be helpful to have a more clear idea of what gets you to these things. But it's also worth pointing out that I think that we kind of all know the answer. It's whoever the promoters want to have there, right? Like, it's like that's what it kind of boils down to, is that it's not really about results or whatever. It's just that if they think that these people can hang, and they're a good representative of the sport and all that stuff, whatever, that's what gets them invited. And the point that the reason I want to talk about this is because you and me had a discussion about this yesterday. I thought that was actually a little bit enlightening. Was like, none of these women shouldn't be there. I think that we kind of agreed on that, right? Like, there was nobody who you look at and be like, well, who the fuck is this person to be here at the competition? And in fact, just the opposite of that is that most of these women have like pretty direct accolades that could put them into this position, and that you can point to and be like, this is why they're there. So what I think it's worth getting into a little bit is the invites. We're gonna have to kind of compress this a little bit because we don't want this to go all day. But some of them will be very obvious, and they'll be like, this is why this person is there. But let's go through this and see if there's anybody who stands out as, like, because we're hearing this a lot. Anthony Furman made a post about it, being like, it needs to be more clear as to why people are getting invited and stuff.
And it's weird that it seems to be this year, when, like, I think you could point to last year's Arnold's, even back to the year before, and say, like, oh, here's 1 or 2 questionable invites.
Sure.
This year, not a single questionable invite.
I don't see it myself, and I think that we can look at these, and that's why I have my laptop in front of me here, so that we can search names and find results if we feel like we need to. But it's just very cut and dry to me. And if you look at this caliber of competitor, there's not really anybody that I could think of. There was one name that kept popping up that could be invited, and we don't know why. And we don't know, like, there could be some reason behind it. But Nicole Gendrich was the only one. Gingrich was the only one that.
There's no second G, just Gendrich.
Gendrich was the only one that was like consistently in that top like podium a lot of times, and isn't invited to this.
Not only podium, Nicole Gendrich is the only person to beat any of the women who are right now invited to the Arnold, except for them beating each other.
And I think that's really important too.
Over the last year.
Right.
Since last year's OSG.
Right.
She's the only one.
And how far back are you going to want to go besides like a calendar year, right? So I think that it's worth considering that there's not women, like, in my mind, I think that there is this on the men's side, but there's not that many women who are like chomping at the bit, being like, give me a fucking chance because I can beat any one of these women. We just had OSG with Rebecca Roberts there, who is one of the top women, not the top woman, but one of the top. And
I think she could have an argument.
Sorry, I shouldn't say that. She's not like far and away. Like, she's not like.
Yeah, she isn't clearly like indisputably.
No.
Like kind of Mitch Hooper is on the men's side
there
right
you
now.
Go. That's the best way to put it. But nobody beat her, and it's just it just says to me that there's a reason that these women are at this level. And I think that if a lot of people like compared like just like raw numbers, you'd be like, oh, okay, I kind of get it now. But let's start off with Angelica Jardine. Doesn't really need much explanation, I wouldn't think. No. Won last year. Why wouldn't you be invited? And I think, and it's funny, the second one here is the only one that I can kind of, a case could be made for. But Andrea Thompson, but she came fourth at the Arnold's UK. And she like, always does well. Like, she's consistently a good competitor.
Not only. So I want to find the Rogue, because
right.
I was a bit surprised about her invite to Rogue, but she's recovering from a bicep tear from last year, and had a bit of a down performance at the Arnold. She did okay at the Arnold's UK, but then at Rogue, like, she said she was now the third woman to deadlift 300 kilograms in competition, second one to do it raw, after Lucy Underdown, who only did it at the same competition, and like I just want to see what her overall placing was, because I really don't think she had,
like, she's one of those competitors that like quietly does very, very well in competitions.
Okay, she did finish 9th.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is that that was viciously competitive field of competitors, that rogue competition.
Yeah, I mean, every single person that beat her, except for Hannah Lindsay, is one of the women invited to the Arnold.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah. So, I would.
And Hannah Lindsay was also invited, but she
declined. I think.
Yeah.
I would never put Andrew Thompson as like, you're on the bubble, you're on the way out, whatever. I think that she's maybe lacking like those wins that you would want to point to be like, this is why you're getting invited. But she just does so well that it's like, not everyone wins every. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like sometimes you just do well in competitions, and that's enough.
And an invitational event like the Arnold's, where they're gonna do something for somebody to hit an insane lift. Where the goal of that is going to be, let's get somebody to set a record.
Sure.
And Andrea's, I think, somebody that even if it was between like, okay, we can invite either, Andrea Thompson or Nicole Genrich. We're like, well, we want to have a really heavy log at the Arnold. Okay, Andrea Thompson.
Andrew's gonna go.
Like
yeah,
that. That's
sure.
just kind of like not that she doesn't deserve the invite, but when you're picking between two people and one of them has like a showstopper event that you can bring them in for and have them be like, all right, this is going to get the crowd excited. That is a good reason to invite them over another person. It could be the tiebreaker.
Yep. The next one is Erin Murray, who like just shows like she just. I mean, I don't think that we're counting this last OSG as like decision making for this, obviously, but
she was also the U82 World's Strongest Woman.
She's won it twice. She won 73 and 82. Has now won 73 again. She won the Arnold Amateur. It's just there. That's just those are all perfectly good reasons as to why she would be invited to this competition. Not to mention too, I know this isn't going to be the thing that people want to hear, but there's like a showman element to it too. She looks fucking cool whenever she shows up. She has like she does well, and she's somebody that you can put on like the poster or whatever, and people are like, damn, that looks sick. Like she has the face paint and all that shit,
and also making it relatable. Like you don't have to be
a giant,
6'3" and like Rebecca Roberts size.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's something to that too. I think is that she's like a more like normal size, but like she's super jacked and not normal size. But you know what I'm trying to say. Gabby Dixon. Let's tell everyone why Gabby Dixon should be invited.
I mean, Gabby is somebody who I do think has been snubbed.
Yeah.
From these invitational comps. She basically didn't compete this entire year, as far as I'm aware. Maybe some like, maybe she's at like a Rainier Classic kind of show or something. But like the World's Strongest Nation, where she got second to Mark Felix on the Hercules hold, where the women were doing the same weight as the men. She beat Martins Lisi's.
That's unreal.
On a Hercules hold. Like,
she did great at North Americans.
Great at North Americans. She's like, she doesn't really have much weak events. I think her pressing is like her worst event, but like not bad. She's a great deadlifter. And she just has like those showstopper events.
And I think too is that like, even though it's like she doesn't have like that big win under her belt, she might be the most evidence for this or like against this argument that it's like she's not like considered to be like in this like what would you call it, like the same old regulars kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like she's somebody who is being introduced as a new face to this, who we all know can hang. Like, that's not going to be a question, but she's not like the regular kind of gang that you see over and over and over again. So I think that she's somebody who kind of breaks that mold a little bit, if people are thinking that might be the case.
And also one other thing that I just remembered about Gabby Dixon, if you go back to OSG of like last year, 2023. So we mentioned Nicole Genrich, only competitor out there who's beating kind of these regular invitees. At that competition, Nicole beat Inez. That was one of the few instances of somebody else coming in between these Arnold's invites, these rogue invite women. Gabby Dixon was the only one to come just after. Like it was I don't think I'm explaining this very well. It was Rebecca Roberts, Lucy Underdown, Nicole Genrich, Inez Carrasquillo. So that's Nicole coming in between.
The top crew,
And then the next one down is Gabby Dixon.
Right, yeah.
So like if you're just going to be basing invites off of, say OSG invites, then Nicole Genrich aside that we already addressed, she's just the next on the list.
Next one to go. Yeah, absolutely. And that really demonstrates that they're maybe there is sort of a path to be taken here that we can kind of start to recognize that certain things are.
Yeah, and we also don't know invites that were turned down.
That's absolutely that's a fantastic point.
They could have sent out, like, maybe Nicole.
Maybe she got one.
You know, she's from Australia.
Yeah.
Maybe she's like, I don't want to make that trip.
Maybe it's her kid's fucking birthday. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
maybe like so there could be any number of reasons people couldn't that, you know, we get lost in this bubble where it's like this is the biggest deal in the world to a lot of people, and for some people they're just like there's other life priorities that could take precedence over this. Inez Carrasquillo, yeah, she's gonna
Obviously.
she's gonna be invited. Like
Yeah,
that's not.
I think Inez is the strongest woman in the world right now.
I think so too.
No, like, obviously, I think that any given competition, it can go between more women than maybe has ever been in history. Like,
Right.
I think the top of the women's category is the most competitive it's ever been. But I think, you know, you run 10 competitions, I think Inez is the one who comes out with the most wins.
I think so too. Yep, I think that right now she's just in a really. I wouldn't call her unbeatable, but I think that she's on a tear right now. The start of a tear, with like North Americans, the Rogue Invitational. I think that we're going to see a lot of really big things coming from her. It's going to be really, really exciting to watch. Jennifer Lyle. So, if we want to talk about there being a route to the Arnolds, she won the amateurs, and now she's at the Arnolds. So. That's always been that's kind of always been the deal. So I'm not sure and then on the men's side, Nick Guardiano, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but Guardione, he won the amateurs and now he's doing the pro show. You know what I mean? So it's like they're.
But also, is it kind of insane that this is a business, and if they want to invite whoever they want to invite,
I mean, ultimately they're going to invite who they invite.
If they
But
invite
I think
some
that is
random,
the complaint, though, is like
Right.
people saying that the business should be conducted differently. Like, yeah, like,
Right.
we're just saying like it. You know, it's their business; they can run it however they want.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are just voicing their opinion. You know, like you can also be free to criticize how a business is run.
That's
And
true.
that's
Yeah.
the thing too is you can take issue with how they do it, and that's absolutely fine. But
I just don't think their criticism here is justified.
is justified. Yeah,
Right.
that's the point that we want to make here is that the argument is that it's the same, and I feel this way sometimes with the guys too, where you start seeing the same faces over and over again. But it's on the women's side, I would say it's even more so than the men, where the women who are the most popular, the most in demand, they're also the best. Like they're really it's like those top tier of women that you'd want to if you were to list the top 12 to do. I'm making up Iron Age Classic here, and I want the 12 best women. It would be pretty much who you would expect. It would be the names that you would expect to see. In the same way that if I was going to put together a UFC tournament, it's going to be the top names because they're the best. You know what I mean? Those are the best fighters are the most popular ones, and it's going to be, or generally speaking, and it's going to be the same thing with the strongman shit, where it's it might seem like it's just the same women being invited because they're the popular ones, but it's because they're really fucking good. That's why they're so popular. You know, they're incredible.
I think there are exceptions to that. Like I would like to see more variety at Giants Live
For sure. That's where I would say is the certain shows like that we could stand to see a new face or two new faces cycled in a little more often.
Yeah, because Giants Live, they do talk about themselves as the qualifying.
It's the way to get to that next level.
Yeah.
Yes. Lucy Underdown, no real explanation required there with her. Mel Peacock, she was somebody that even I kind of said, I was like, oh yeah, she might be a little more on the bubble, say with Sam even too, but not anymore. They're just they keep showing again and again that they belong, because that was always a knock on them early on, was oh, here's the pretty blonde girl or whatever, blah blah. It's no, they're just really fucking strong and really good at this shit, and their placings show it, and their records show it, and everything else.
Yeah, they're never at the bottom. They're not. I don't think they've made it to a podium of any of these majors
Not yet.
But actually, wait, what about the Arnold's UK?
She won Arnold's UK, Mel.
Oh well, fuck me. There you go then.
Wait, she won Arnold's UK?
I'm pretty sure she
no,
did.
She didn't win.
That
Mel, a winner? No, shit.
Oh no.
I
Well, now we're gonna have to look this up because I don't.
Yeah.
I don't-
I'm pretty sure she did.
But it's also worth pointing out that she won the Shaw Open, the women's Open. So it's if you win these shows, good things happen. That just seems to be the common thread here.
Mel was 8th.
Oh, she got 8th, Jan.
Well, she
she-
won in my heart.
She won the Shaw Open, which was
Right, okay,
just,
yeah.
just a few weeks later,
Right.
or
Right.
a couple months later.
So,
But
but
yeah, but winning the Shaw Open, that's
that's a good way to get yourself noticed and to get yourself a step above all the other competitors, is just to win these shows. And if you look at the Shaw Open, the top 4, except for Nicole Genrich, are all invited to this competition, to the Arnolds.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then speaking of that, Nadia Stowers, who is the U82 champion, and also came in second or third at the Shaw. Either way, did very well at the Shaw, and also she's just like a monster. That's
third because
And
Nicole was
super
third.
cool
Okay.
looking.
Yeah, she looks cool too. Olga Laschuk, America's Strongest Woman.
Yeah.
Sure,
And
sure. You
had,
know?
had a great performance at Rogue.
Yeah, she's just like freakishly strong. Like she's not somebody that you'd have to justify too much about her being invited to stuff. Rebecca Roberts, same story. Current world's strongest woman, 2 times now.
3.
3 times now. So no explanation needed there. Sam Beliveau set a world record at the Arnold's last time. Canada's strongest woman, which it's
4 times.
4 times, which is interesting too because if we're going to look for sort of like loose connections here, Canada's strongest woman in Canada, is run by Strongman Corp Canada, a division of Strongman Corp USA, which is the system that they use for the Arnold's amateur stuff. So I'm not saying that there's any kind of connection. I'm not saying that winning strongest woman in Canada is like a qualifier or anything, but there is probably worth noting that there are loose connections to all these things that happen, and I'm sure that her being 4 times Canada's strongest woman and also the amazing performances that she has at, say, like the Rogue and the Arnold and stuff, those things don't go unnoticed.
And like, it's a small sport. Like, if you are consistently winning competitions, your name gets around.
Yeah, sure.
Like, obviously, this is a comparing a national scale to an international scale, but Tristan injured himself just before, and then I think re-aggravated at Shaw, so he had to pull out of CSM. So they asked, "Who do you think should be your replacement?" Right, and he put your name forward. So like, if you're having good performances, then people will vouch for you.
Yeah, it's Sam is like, I mean, I don't think anybody's like sitting there being like, why is Sam Beliveau invited or anything like that. But she's like she's one of these women who they don't necessarily like say her and Mel haven't podiumed at these big shows yet, but they always do well. They always have a standout event, if not more than one. Usually there's 2 that they do really well at in any given competition, and yeah, I don't think there's any more justifications needed than that. And she's the last one. So to put a little bow on that, there's just nobody in that group that's like, oh, she's only there because whatever the issue is that people have. I'm not really clear on what that is with people.
To be fair, this time like I haven't seen many people say like, oh, this athlete shouldn't have been invited. I've seen Sam like seem to imply it in her post about maybe
Right.
people messaging her.
Yeah.
And saying that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, why were you invited over?
Why was this person and not this person? Which is like an
Yeah.
insane take to have. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, because she's like, but I haven't personally seen any comments about that. I've just seen people say, oh, like the route to get to the Arnold is unclear, or
which
like,
I think is a fair criticism. Like that part of it.
Yeah, but I don't think it's as unclear.
But it's
sure,
like,
it's not explicit.
It's not explicit,
but it's clear.
Yes, it's not
win
explicit.
competitions.
But yes, that might be the best way to put it. Is that it's not like written down on a wall somewhere where it's like they can point to like this is how we do it. But it's like it's you can look at those and be like, well, there's a common thread between all these women is that they do very well at international level competitions, and also they do. So say like Mel with the Shaw, anybody could have signed up for that competition. Like anybody could have gone there and done it, and
they have an online qualifier.
That's right. And they could have beaten her. Anybody could have gone to OSG if you qualify for it, obviously. But anybody could have gone there and beaten Rebecca Roberts if they can do it, which they can't. You know what I mean? So it's like these women are not being picked out of a fucking hat and just being like, well, this is our girl for the next 5 years. Like they're incredible athletes and they're super talented. We're getting the wrap it up signal from Gian here. I could talk about this for a lot longer, but it's just I think the point.
We didn't even talk about the men's roster.
Mitch Hooper, Thor, Evan Singleton, Nick Gardione,
Max.
That's
one that I have seen people say like, oh, why is Max invited but Thomas Evans isn't? Which Thomas Evans is having surgery right now apparently.
Right.
Bobby Thompson.
I was pleasantly surprised to see Max invited. I obviously want to see Max at these shows, but I was a little surprised to see him there.
I was a bit surprised, but maybe just the fact that like being Canadian and paying more attention, like I guess like North America's Strongest Man doesn't get a lot of attention,
Right.
but his performance there
was so dominating.
like
yeah.
with Lucas Hatton at that competition.
Yeah. Lucas Haddon going to the Arnolds.
Yeah,
Or
and
more
like,
Lucas.
and Lucas wasn't even close to Max.
Right.
Like based on that performance alone, I say give him an invite.
Yep.
He's shown with the right events,
Right.
he can be unstoppable.
Literally unbeatable, like completely unbeatable.
Mateus is going.
Yep.
My good friend from Iceland, Mateus Kioskowski.
How many words
Martin
did he say
has
to
better
you?
friends than
Zero.
you are.
Martin might know him better than me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's actually it's a really fun list of guys at the Arnold this year. I'm really looking forward to that.
Maybe Matthews thought he was Martins.
Maybe, yeah. Oh, maybe that's a very common mistake mixing up Martin and Martins. That's I never thought about that, but that probably actually is what it was.
Martins, you put on weight.
So we'll leave it there for now. What do we have for time there, Gian? What
It's an hour and 19.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
So I lose track of time when I'm sitting with my good friend Thrones talking about strongman stuff. So on February 8th, we have Al Jose coming up here.
Yep.
Is that
or
correct?
9th, I think.
Okay.
8th. I don't know. The Saturday.
It's February 8th, I'm pretty sure. February 8th, we have him coming up. Our registration for that is now open. We're really, really excited for that one. It's going to be really, really awesome. And I'm going to say it because I think that we'll have the poster by then. But we're going to be doing our charity log lift on March 10th, I believe it is.
March 8th.
8th as well. Okay. That's weird. But then we are...
That makes sense. February is only 28 days.
That's true, too. So...
Strongman math.
Yep, absolutely. So, but with the one thing I'm really excited for, and we'll have to talk about this again next show a little more in depth, but I really want to get it out there right now, is that on June...
What?
Something, you got to be on the ball with us.
8th.
Also the 8th, I'm sure. I'm sure it has to be the 8th.
7th.
The 7th. June 7th, we will be hosting a new competition right here in Manitoba, held at Morris, Rumble in the Valley. It was Manitoba's Strongest Man last year. It was the Rumble in the Valley Pro-Am the year before. It's a great competition with a great built-in audience. We will be hosting Western Canada's Strongest Masters. So we're very, very excited to see the very best of our 40-plus, our seasoned veteran competitors come down to Manitoba.
Is there 50 plus as well?
Not right now. We're going to be doing just 40 and up for now. We're gonna see how this goes. It's a brand new concept that we're going to try to do here. We have a huge number of competitors in the Masters division in Western Canada. So I'm really, really excited to see who we can get out for this one. If you're at all interested, please contact me, Iron Age, Strong Manitoba, Gian, whoever. And we're gonna have big cash prizes for this one, and it's gonna be a crowd for it. We're gonna have some great events, and we're really, really excited. So get yourself signed up. Mikal Thrones, thank you for joining me for today. Thanks for lending me your insight. He always pays much closer attention to things than I do and teaches me about things that I just finished watching. So I really appreciate having you on here. Thanks, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And we will see you guys. What do we got coming up next week? Anything specific?
Next week, nothing.
Nothing? We'll figure something out. We'll have a chat about something or other. So we'll see you guys next week. And thanks for
I'll have a
listening.
competition to recap.
There we go. Powerlifting competition coming up this Saturday.
A local meet, the type of content everyone's tuning
Absolutely.
in for.
This is the kind of thing you want to listen in for.
Mark your
so.
calendars. We'll see you next week.
See you guys next week.